Disclaimer: this episode is an educational documentary based on publicly available official records, declassified documents, congressional materials, and cited media sources. We do not claim new findings, accuse any person or organization, or encourage hatred, harassment, or harm. Some historical events remain debated or disputed. We present them only as documented in the cited sources. Welcome back to American Power Series. This is where we open the files, follow the paper trail, and look at the moments when American power moved quietly behind the public story. In episode 1, we opened MK Ultra. Today we open another file. And this one does not begin in a laboratory. It begins with letters, phone calls, informants, anonymous rumors, and a government program built around one word: neutralize. Now here is the question. What happens when a law enforcement agency stops only investigating people and starts trying to destroy their movements? That is the story of COINTELPRO. Stay with me, because this is not a rumor from the edge of the internet. This is a public record story: FBI files, Senate investigations, National Archives pages, and the Church Committee. And by the end, you will understand why one secret domestic program changed how Americans think about surveillance, protest, and government power. COINTELPRO sounds like a machine. Cold, bureaucratic, almost boring. But the name meant counterintelligence program. According to the public FBI vault and the Senate's history of the Church Committee, COINTELPRO was not just normal law enforcement. It was a series of covert actions aimed at groups and people the FBI considered threats to the social order. Now pause right there, because that phrase matters. Not people convicted of crimes. Not people who had gone through a courtroom. Groups and individuals deemed dangerous by the government. And when the government makes that kind of judgment in secret, the line between security and power can start to disappear. So who did COINTELPRO target? The Senate's historical summary names the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the anti-Vietnam War movement, Martin Luther King Jr., and other political figures and organizations. The National Archives also points to records involving the Black Panther Party, including FBI records and Department of Justice files. The Black Panther Party was not only known for armed self-defense and radical politics. The National Archives notes that it also ran community programs like free breakfast for children, sickle cell anemia screening, legal aid, and adult education. That is why this story is complicated. Some groups were controversial. Some members were accused of serious crimes. But the core question is bigger than any one group. In America, does the government get to secretly disrupt political activity because it dislikes the ideology? Or does the Constitution require something more? The Church Committee later answered that intelligence agencies had undermined the constitutional rights of citizens because checks and balances had not been applied. That sentence is the heart of this episode. Now let's talk about tactics. COINTELPRO was not always about dramatic raids or movie-style operations. Often the methods were quieter. An anonymous letter. A planted rumor. A forged message. Pressure on employers. Informants inside a group. Attempts to create distrust between leaders. Attempts to make members suspect each other. Think about that for a second. If a movement depends on trust, you do not always have to defeat it in public. You can make people question the person standing next to them. You can make one leader think another leader betrayed them. You can make a supporter afraid to show up. You can turn the room into a mirror maze. And from the outside, it may look like the movement simply fell apart. But inside the files, the story can look very different. One of the most remembered COINTELPRO targets was the Black Panther Party. The National Archives page on the Black Panther Party says the organization was frequently targeted by the FBI's COINTELPRO program, as well as by state and local law enforcement groups. It also lists more than 2,400 records relating to the party, including textual records, motion pictures, sound recordings, and photographs. Now, there is a reason we have to be careful here. This episode is not here to turn anyone into a cartoon villain or a cartoon hero. The history includes political radicalism, policing, violence, community programs, criminal allegations, civil rights, and constitutional questions all at once. But the official record makes one thing clear. The government was not simply watching from a distance. It was acting. It was infiltrating. It was disrupting. And in some cases, it was trying to neutralize. That word keeps coming back. Neutralize. Not debate. Not prosecute in open court. Neutralize. Then there is Fred Hampton. The National Archives describes Hampton as a leader in the Chicago chapter of the Black Panther Party and says he became the focus of an FBI investigation. On December 4, 1969, Hampton and Mark Clark were killed during a police raid. The National Archives page states that William O'Neill, employed by the FBI to infiltrate the Black Panther Party, slipped a powerful sleeping drug into Hampton's drink the night before. That detail is heavy. So let it sit for a second. An informant. A drug. A raid. A young political leader dead. And afterward, the record became a battleground of its own. Who fired? How many shots? What did police know? What did federal authorities know? The National Archives says the charges against the surviving Panthers were eventually dropped after a later investigation found that Chicago police fired 99 shots while the Panthers fired once. This is why COINTELPRO still hits a nerve. Because the story is not only surveillance. It is what surveillance can become when secrecy, fear, politics, and force all meet in the same room. So how did the public learn the scale of this? The answer came through years of pressure, exposed files, journalism, lawsuits, and congressional investigation. In the 1970s, after Watergate and after a growing crisis of trust, Congress opened major investigations into intelligence abuses. The Senate created the Select Committee to study governmental operations with respect to intelligence activities. Most people call it the Church Committee, after Senator Frank Church. According to the Senate, the committee held 126 full committee meetings, 40 subcommittee hearings, interviewed about 800 witnesses, and reviewed roughly 110,000 documents. That is not a small review. That is a national autopsy. And the committee did not only look at COINTELPRO. It looked at the CIA, FBI, IRS, NSA, and other intelligence activities. But COINTELPRO became one of the clearest examples of domestic power operating without enough oversight. The Senate's history page says investigators identified intelligence abuses by federal agencies, including the CIA, FBI, IRS, and NSA. It also says the Church Committee staff researched COINTELPRO as a long-running FBI program of covert action designed to disrupt and discredit groups and individuals. And then came the larger conclusion. The final report said intelligence agencies had undermined constitutional rights, largely because checks and balances had not been applied. That is the lesson. Power does not always become dangerous because one person wakes up evil. Sometimes it becomes dangerous because a system gives itself permission. Permission to watch. Permission to interfere. Permission to hide. Permission to say national security and stop answering questions. So why should someone watching today care about a program that officially ended in 1971? Because the tension never ended. America still argues about surveillance. It still argues about protest. It still argues about extremism, civil liberties, national security, and the limits of government power. And COINTELPRO is a warning from the files. If oversight is weak, secret power grows. If citizens are treated as enemies before a court ever hears the case, rights become conditional. And if a government can secretly disrupt lawful political activity, then free speech becomes something you have only until someone powerful decides you should not. COINTELPRO was not just a program. It was a test. Could American institutions expose their own abuses and build stronger guardrails afterward? The answer was partly yes. Congress created new oversight structures. FISA changed how surveillance requests were supposed to work. But the deeper answer is still being written. Because every generation has to decide where the line is. Between safety and freedom. Between intelligence and intimidation. Between watching danger and becoming dangerous. This was American Power Series. Next file, the surveillance dragnet that reached from telegrams to phone lines. Project Shamrock.